All right, welcome in. Happy Monday. You're watching Philadelphia 76ers now by Chat Sports. Chase Senior here with you. Hope all of your weeks are off to a great start after you had a fantastic Thanksgiving and holiday weekend. Lots to get to on the show. We're talking Sixers news, rumors, and analysis. Make sure you subscribe and lock us in for videos year-round on Philadelphia. So I want to start with this. And without some of the key cogs in the Sixers lineup, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, James Harden, this Sixers team has been playing really well, 4-2 over their last 6 games, but also they're playing this team brand of basketball. It's kind of refreshing to see. They have that underdog mentality because they're lacking some of those star players, but they're playing in a way like the Utah Jazz, complementary, team-oriented, a lot of guys stepping up that they're really fun to root for right now. One of those guys, it includes Shake Milton. He is emerging right now, stepping up in the absence of James Harden and Tyrese Maxey. Take a look at what the former SMU guy is doing over his last 5 games. 23.5 points per game, 6.5 assists as he's really handling the ball as the primary ball handler. He's shooting 60.5% from the floor and a hot 52% from beyond the arc. And the Sixers' guard depth is obviously really good right now. You're without the aforementioned Harden and Tyrese Maxey, yet D'Anthony Melton as well as Shake Milton have really been able to shoulder a lot of the load. And Milton's a fun player to watch because kind of has that old school game. He's not really twitchy, but he's shifty and kind of decisive with the way that he moves and is very creative in like a Paul Pierce type of sense athletically that makes him a pretty fun player to watch. And the Sixers guard options here, you see some of that depth on display. James Springer, of course, injured right now. I think he's a bust, frankly, but D'Anthony Melton and Shake Milton, that 1-2 punch in that Sixers backcourt. And then when Tyrese Maxey and James Harden are able to come back, maybe you can conserve them a little bit. Maybe you can mix in a Melton and a Milton a little bit more often to kind of interchange your guard-oriented lineups. And I think this is especially true in the regular season. And you look at some of the teams that Doc Rivers has had success with. Consistent theme. Very good guard play. Now, I think once you get into the NBA Finals, deep in the NBA playoffs, oftentimes you win with wings. But in the regular season, you can win a lot of games with some really solid guard play, and that's what the Sixers have gotten recently from some of their depth reserves and other pieces outside of some of those star players. So, shake and bake. Show Shake Milton some love with the way that he's balling out right now. Type his jersey number into the comment section, that 1-8 down below. And as you venture down there, to all my Philly Bulls out there, if you haven't subscribed, you ain't alive. Sixers coverage year-round, all for free. News, rumors, and analysis, informative, entertaining content. Subscribe today and make sure that you are a follower of 76ers Now by Chat Sports. All right, some trade rumors that we want to touch here on a Monday. Let's first talk about Matisse Thybulle, and then we'll get to some other guys on this roster, PJ Tucker specifically. The lack of minutes for Thybulle, problematic for him, as he's going to be a restricted free agent. I think that we're getting to a situation in which the Sixers just let him walk. They don't re-sign him because they're not playing him at all right now. Obviously, not pleased with the offensive development or lack thereof. And as we get closer and closer to the NBA trade deadline, a lot of teams are going to value elite wing defense and the length of Matisse Thybulle because he's shown that he can lock down some of the best guards and wings in the NBA and can be a valuable component of a playoff team that might have better offensive options and a better all-around offense than the Sixers have, which is why they can't play him right now because he's such an offensive liability that it's become absolutely glaring at this point. This trade buzz coming from Kyle Neubeck, PhillyVoice.com. He's always done a good job of covering the Sixers. I'm told there has been some interest in Matisse Thybulle in preliminary discussions around the league, and I'd expect him to be in the rumor mill, in that fixture, up until the NBA trade deadline. And I think it's become clearer and clearer that, yes, the Sixers don't really value Matisse Thybulle. They might look to trade him because why wouldn't you if you can get some picks back that you've traded or an impact player to help this team down the stretch that's a better fit than Matisse Thybulle. But also on top of that, I think Thybulle just is what he is. Is he going to have some miraculous turnaround in which he becomes a good three-point shooter? I don't think so. He's a great defender, but an incompetent and inconsistent shooter. And his career stats back that up, not just from the three-point line, but also from the free throw line. And oftentimes when I scout basketball players, as I kind of lead our draft coverage here at Chat Sports, if I have a concern about the shot, I look at the free throw percentage. At Washington, Matisse Thybulle had these weird free throw splits. And so far in the NBA, he's gotten worse as a free throw shooter, a la a guy like Ben Simmons. And with that, if you have a good three-point stroke, does that indicate that you have a good free throw and three-point stroke that's combined that will allow you to kind of work on your weaknesses and your flaws as a shooter? And I think that Matisse Thybulle, this is the guy who he is. 64% from the free throw line is garbage. And with him being a restricted free agent this summer, I wouldn't be surprised if the Sixers just decide to let this guy go. If he was a good free throw shooter, maybe that would indicate that at some point down the road, he can become a good three-point shooter because you work on the form, you work on the consistency, but both aren't there. This is Andre Roberson all over again. So will Thybulle be on the Sixers next year? I want you to look into your crystal balls right now, predict it for us as we project forward. Thybulle, next year, is he on the Sixers? Why for yes and for no? Thanks to Fanatics for all of these great deals that we tell you about. And it is the holiday season now. This is a great gift if you want to treat yourself and splurge for your own self or somebody else out there. These Sixers Brotherly Love City Edition jerseys, absolutely fire. And you can get your Joel Embiid jerseys right now thanks to our friends at Fanatics. But you have to use the link down below so that they know that Chat Sports sent you. Cyber Monday deals all across the site. You can find those by visiting that link down below as well. Chatsports.com/76city. Make sure you use that link for those deals to apply and so that Fanatics knows that Chat Sports sent you. Now we round things out with P.J. Tucker. Could the Sixers trade P.J. Tucker? Now, they can't trade him for a little while because they signed him to that contract in NBA free agency. But he's expressed some frustrations with his role within the Sixers offense. And this guy, I knew that this was going to happen. The casual basketball fan was going to say, P.J. Tucker, P.J. Tucker sucks, dude. 3.5 points per game, 4.5 rebounds. Dude can't hit a lick. And yes, when you look at the numbers, the casual basketball fan, as I do my poor Delco impersonation, they think that this guy sucks. He doesn't suck. He's really impactful with the role that he is specialized in. Him with the Milwaukee Bucks when they won a championship. Him last year with the Miami Heat. He is a value component once you get to the playoffs because he can defend at a high level. He can spread the floor. He's a heady, smart, veteran basketball player who is a championship-level piece. But his numbers this year, not good. And he wanted to talk about that. And I read this article from Keith Pompey, Philadelphia Inquirer, and he said, P.J. Tucker did, as long as we're winning, it doesn't matter what my role in the offense is. Of course, you want to get more shots. What player doesn't? But with the way that we play, Doc Rivers talks about a lack of ball movement all the time. It's one of those things. Sometimes you get shots, sometimes you don't. You keep playing and figuring it out. And this year, 3.1 field goal attempts and 1.5 three-point attempts this season. He came to Philadelphia to try to get a championship, but also playing alongside James Harden. He thought, going back to those Rockets days, that he was going to be left vacant in the corner, and he'd have some opportunity to bury some of those three-point shots, which is where he's had success in the latter half of his career as he's turned into that valuable player. But if the Sixers don't think that he fits, if the Sixers think that this is money poorly spent, could they look to trade him to get a better fitting piece that could help you on both ends of the floor? And there are veteran-laden teams out there that would love to have P.J. Tucker in their locker room and on the floor because this guy, when it comes playoff time, is a dog and can defend and stick with some of the best wings, offensive scoring wings in the NBA. Now, you look at his contract here. This is where things start to get a little bit interesting because if you're paying a lot of money and you fall into that Al Horford trap where it's a bad contract and the fit is so blatant that it holds you back in terms of your basketball team-oriented potential, do you look to move on from a player like P.J. Tucker? I think that some trade buzz, it could begin to come to the forefront and the horizon over the next couple of weeks going into the NBA trade deadline, just because I know a lot of teams will be asking about P.J. Tucker, and he is a valuable trade piece. So this year, $10.5 million. Next year, $11 million. Then there's that player option on that third year. I highly doubt that the two sides will agree for that player option to come into play. And who knows if Tucker's cooked. He's already in his late 30s at that point. $11.5 million for a guy who's barely shooting the basketball. We will certainly see what happens on that front. I like him. I wanted the Sixers to sign him in free agency because they needed that toughness. I do think that a lot of people will be impressed by that once the Sixers make the playoffs and see his impact in the big dance. So T for trade, P for pass. What should the Sixers trade, or should the Sixers, trade for PJ Tucker? And before we hop on out of here, if you made it this far, it's another Real One Roll Call. We appreciate everybody who's subscribed and still tuned in. And if that's you, type Real One in the chat, and we will catch you next time here on 76ers Now.